Hello, my front porch friend. It's so good to see you today. Palmer, say hello. Oh, he's a bit distracted. I was just coming by my little garden out here in my front yard, and I saw this, and it made me think of you. Look at this. Welcome to our porch. Isn't that beautiful? A sweet friend of mine gave this to me, a front porch friend of mine, and I just love it because it's true. This is our porch. This is our place of intercession. And if you're new to the porch, I'm glad you're here. Because I have a word today I want to encourage you with. I want to encourage your faith with some prayer strategies that I have personally experienced. It's interesting because right before, just a few minutes ago, before I even turned this phone on, I have been walking this porch praying for you. And I've just been asking the Lord today, Lord, what is the word you want to speak to my friend? And as I was praying that, I just heard this in my spirit. I heard the voice say, tell them what to do when they hit the wall. Then I knew that he was going to have somebody be watching this. Somebody that literally you've been praying about a situation, and maybe lately you've been feeling like it's been going in a good direction. You've been getting some movement in prayer. You've been excited because any movement in what you're believing for is a miracle all by itself. But then suddenly, just these last few days, suddenly, unexpectedly, out of nowhere for you, it was just like, boom, you hit this unmovable wall where you've been feeling like after you were feeling encouraged and in prayer, all of a sudden, bang, your prayers feel like they're just going nowhere. And the situation seems harder than ever. What do you do when you hit the wall? Well, for one thing, you got to know this. The wall has been put here by your enemy. But you know your Father well enough to know that even though the enemy may have put the wall here for you in your circumstance and in your prayer life, you know how that works. What the enemy means for evil, God's going to turn it for good. The enemy may have put this wall here to stop your praying, to make you stop believing. The enemy's put this wall here literally to make you quit praying. But God allowed this wall here to teach you how to keep praying. So when you hit the wall, the first thing I want to encourage you to do, number one, is you don't give up. In fact, you know what? I just thought about this old song. I sang this probably literally 40 years ago. And I recorded it back then too. And the song, it said, the second verse was this. The second verse of the song was, when your back's against the wall and you try to stand tall in faith, you can't go under and you can't go around, so you wait. And even when you don't understand, you're still in the palm of his hand. So you just wait, 'cause he won't be late. He's just working his plan. I love that. God is working his plan for good in your life, even when it seems like you're going nowhere. One of the first things I do when I hit the wall, knowing that God is at work, I like to just stop and say, okay, God, I was moving and now then this thing. So here we go. Lord, what is it that you're wanting to teach me right now? Lord, okay, everything's kind of come to a halt all of a sudden. What is it, God, you're wanting to say to me? And I usually like to start here. I usually like to start in Psalms 139. I believe it's about verse 23 that says this. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. See, God, see if there be any wicked way in me and lead me in the way everlasting. I love the New Living Translation on that verse. It says, search me, O God, and know my heart. It says, Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Then it says, God, see if there's anything in me that's offended you. So sometimes when I hit a wall, rather than just keep trying to pound my way through the wall, I just want to stop and say, okay, start with me. Instead of just keep on praying about the circumstance. Whoa, start with me right here, God. Is there something in me you're trying to tell me? Is there something in me I need to know and that I need to learn? Because if you'll have an ear to hear, what do you do then? You just start listening. You just start examining your heart. Start listening. Start listening for any thought that just pops up into your mind. Maybe it's an offense towards somebody. Because I remember when my daughter Lindsay, as I talk about so often, was gone, when she was a prodigal, and when she was away from God on my journey of intercession, just like many of you are on right now. That was a really big deal for me. Whenever I would hit these places of prayer where I just felt like I wasn't gaining any momentum, something had, just nothing was moving, I would just sometimes just stop, because I knew I had, in that circumstance, in those few years there, I had many, many, many opportunities. It felt like sometimes it was almost daily to be offended at people. I had opportunity to be offended at the people that were involved in the situation with my daughter. People even from the church or family that was listening to the things that were being said that were not true, and even in their own way encouraging it, meaning well, but actually hurting it. It was just so many opportunities even to be offended at my daughter for the unbelievable decisions she was making, how many people she was hurting, for the things that she was saying that were not true. It was just like this constant battle with the opportunity to be offended. Can I tell you something, my sweet, sweet friend? When you hit a wall, it's a good time to examine that, because offense can immobilize you in prayer. If you take on offense, if you take on and you harbor the hurt and keep it there, it can itself become the wall that is hindering your prayers. Sometimes a harbored offense, it will so stop you. That's why the enemy uses it, because it works so well. That's why he uses it so often. That's why you have so many opportunities to be offended, because the enemy knows this thing works really well. It's a good time to just stop and say, now hang on a second. Whenever Lindsay was gone, I want to show you something. When she was gone, I'd had this horrible circumstance to come up. And I wrote about it in my book. If you've read my book, you'll know you've read it yourself. But if you've never read my book, on my journey of intercession, it's called Watching the Road. Praying your prodigal home, or praying any impossible circumstance through. So I was praying for my daughter. Things were terrible. I had gone to a place to just be alone with God. I actually driven to the beach to just sit there alone with God and listen. And I was talking to a friend of mine that I had gone to lunch with down there, and she began to tell me something that I had never quite heard before. Even though I'd experienced it, I didn't have the full revelation of it. And that was the courtroom of heaven. Now just stay with me. If this may be different, stay with me. My friend Jane Hammond, she looked at me and she said, Karen, have you ever heard of the book, The Courtroom of Heaven by Richard Henderson? I said, I have not. So she begins to tell me about this scenario in this book. Now, if you'll allow me, stay with me, please stay with me. And don't forget to comment, all right, while I'm talking. But I want you to listen to this. Somebody that's watching right now that's hit the wall. I want you to listen and see if possibly this could speak to you. In my situation, sitting in that condo, I began to read. I just downloaded the book and just started reading it. I discovered that Henderson, the author of this book, also had a wayward son. He had spent 2 years praying for his son's healing and deliverance. And during his journey, praying for his prodigal, he began to understand that when we contend in faith for something or pray over a period of time without receiving an answer, something could be going on in the courtroom of heaven. Now just listen. The accuser of the brethren is exercising a legal right to keep the answer from coming to us. In other words, there's something the accuser is accusing us of before God. Karen, jumped out of my bed and I walked into the living room. As I stood there facing the beautiful ocean, I called for the convening of the courtroom of heaven. It's true. I asked God to tell me anything that the accuser had against me that could possibly be standing in the way of the manifestation of the promises that God had given me. Throughout the entire night, I listened. The next morning, I'd gotten up, I packed my bags to come home, and I was still listening. And it was on the way home, on the 7-hour drive by myself, alone with God, that I finally began to hear him speak. He spoke to me about a relationship with a man and his wife that had been broken with me years ago. When I first heard the word in my spirit, I thought, but God, I've already done all that I felt like that I could do to make this right in my heart with you. And I've even attempted to make it right with them. And I didn't hear a response. And now, God, you're wanting me to try again? I couldn't stop thinking about it. That even though there was a lot of water under what used to be a bridge there, if the enemy was using this as an accusation against me, then I'm going to deal with it. Then I thought to myself, now this is important, sweet friend, listen. I thought to myself, if I knew that I was going to die tomorrow, is there any relationship I would want restored before I slipped into eternity to face God? Then I knew it. There was no way I would want to leave this life without talking to this couple one more time. That was my answer. And it was then that I remembered that it was in red letters. Jesus had said it. Jesus said, Matthew 5:23-24, if you are presenting a sacrifice at the altar in the temple and you suddenly remember that someone has something against you, leave your sacrifice there at the altar, go and be reconciled to that person, and then come and offer your sacrifice to God. I thought of how many times I'd gone to the ramp to pray and taken Lindsay by faith in the spirit realm. I had taken her in the spirit to the altar and I'd laid her on the altar. But now it was time for me to leave my offering of my daughter there and go make a move toward reconciliation. I was so desperate to see my daughter delivered and restored, honey. I didn't care where the couple was or where I had to drive to get to them. I was going to find them. I didn't care about the details that had destroyed our relationship. There was no reason to go and bring all those old things back up again in the past. It was time to just leave it all in the past and move forward. I didn't even care who was right or wrong. All that mattered to me was making things right. I found the couple's contact information and I made the call. As we talked and cried, the presence of God was manifested through the love and healing that both of us could feel. When I hung up that phone, I felt the mountain move. One act of obedience had shifted something in the heavens and silenced the voice of the accuser. Oh, honey, I remember when I hung up that phone, I literally felt something move in the atmosphere of the spirit realm. I knew that one act of obedience had shifted something. See, sometimes people say, oh, Karen, you make it sound like you've got to earn your prayers answered. You've got to work to do, Jesus has already done everything. Everything is free, and you shouldn't feel like you've got to do anything. You don't have to do anything. Jesus has done it all. That's true when it comes to our salvation. Our salvation is free, and we can't earn it or do enough right things to ever get it. Salvation is free, but obedience can cost you something. And when God has told you to do something and you haven't done it yet, it can become a block, a wall, or a hindrance to the very thing you're believing for in breakthrough. It's not worth it, honey. I knew when I heard that word that day, if the accuser of the brethren is accusing me before God in the courtroom of heaven, and what he is accusing me of, he has a legitimate case, If I've got an offense and he's accusing me of the father of something, and I've not taken care of this, then I've got to go make it right. Go read Mark 11:23 and 24. Go read all that where Jesus says you can pray and ask for anything and say to the mountain, move, and it will be moved. And you can ask for anything in prayer that you want to ask for, and it will be done for you. But then he says, but if you have anything against anybody in your heart, this is in the same verse. If you have anything, then you need to go make it right with them and ask them to forgive you, and your Father will forgive you. See, honey, just make up in your mind, I want my breakthrough so much. I want this wall to move, and I don't care what it takes. You've got to be willing to say in your heart, there is nobody I'm not willing to forgive. There is no one that I'm unwilling to forgive. There is nobody in my life that I am willing to say, nope, they deserve to be put in the prison of my heart for the rest of my life. I'm never going to set them free. Nope, there is nobody that I'm unwilling to forgive. Just make that up in your mind, sweetheart, and do whatever it takes. Even if God says, go make a move. If you've hit the wall today in prayer, just ask God, God, is there somebody I need to make it right with? Is it my daughter-in-law? Is there somebody I need just to go talk to? And don't worry if they don't even hear you right. They may just roll their eyes and make something out of it that you came to them. They may twist what you even said. They may hear it or they may not hear it. But that's not the point. The point is not how they respond to you. The point is how you have responded to God. And that's what he sees. So all you have to do is obey today. Obey today. So I always start there. Search me. Is there anything in me that has offended you, God? Is there God? And then I hear this. I always start with that point. But then I say this, Lord, I remember this is where I'm at right now in my life. Because I've hit a wall about some areas. So this is what I've heard for Karen. And I think for you, remember what I've told you. I thought the Lord said, Karen, remember what I've told y'all already. What I've told you to do it now. Time is of the essence. So lately, I've been thinking, okay, what did you tell me to do? I don't have to fast and pray to know. It's pretty clear. I know what he's told me to do. One of the things he's told Karen to do, get things in order. So in my life, I'm on a mission right now. I'm getting some things in order. I'm cleaning out. I'm cleaning out. I'm cleaning out junk. I'm cleaning out storage buildings. I'm cleaning out stuff I don't need. I'm cleaning out stuff I'm organizing my life. I'm getting some things in order. Because why? Because the Bible says the crooked places have to be made straight. And crooked places in the road slow you down. If you ever tried to drive on a crooked road, you get slower and slower. But when you're on a straight road, you can accelerate. And I thought the Lord said to me, Karen, you need to get rid of these crooked places in your life that's slowing things down. And if you'll straighten out these crooked things, you can accelerate into my purpose. This wall will move. Or just think about it. What have you told me to do? Examine. My word is order. So I'm cleaning out. Maybe it's money. Maybe you need to organize what about managing your money? Tithing. Is there any area of your life? I love this. Any area that's not being managed well. I heard Miles Monroe say something I never forgot. One time, Miles Monroe, I loved him. He said, God will not give you what you pray for. He gives you what you can manage. There's a whole nother word on that. Just examine the management in your life. God, is there any area that I'm not managing well, that's not pleasing to you? You're wanting to teach me through this wall. Now, once you've done this, and once you've sat there, and you've said, okay, God, I'm listening, and then you respond. The Bible even says, when you remember someone's got something against you, go make it right, and then come back. So, and to the altar. So that's what I did. I said, God, okay, I hear what I'm supposed to do. Now I'm going to go do my part. That's what I'm doing right now with order, cleaning out. And I'm going to do everything I know to do. I'm going to do the part only I can do. And then I'm going to come back to God and say, okay, Father, I've done what you told me to do. I've done the part only I can do. And now, God, you're going to do the part only you can do. The part I can do is possible for me to handle. The part you can do is the part nobody else can do but you. I can't move the wall. I can't change their heart. But I can obey you, and you'll do the rest. One more thing. Remember when Lindsay was gone? I wrote about this in my book too, by the way. When Lindsay was gone, I was in prayer one day with my friends. I was so exhausted I couldn't even pray. And they were praying for me. And one of my sweet friends, Pam Barnett, said to me, Karen, do you see anything when you close your eyes in prayer? And I remember that day I said, yes, Pam, I do. I see a wall. And it's an old, big, huge, thick, ancient wall. And Lindsay is sitting behind it. And Pam said, Karen, ask the Lord to give you a weapon, something to bring that wall down with. And I just sat there and I said, Lord, show me what I can use to bring this wall down. And in my mind, I was thinking, surely he's going to pull up on a bulldozer and say, here, Karen, I brought you a bulldozer, because that's what the wall looked like. It was so impossible. Or surely at least he'd give me a big old sledgehammer. No. As I listened, in the spirit realm, I saw coming toward me a white feather. And I started laughing. And Pam Barnett looked at me and she said, what did you see? I said, Pam, he's giving me a feather because he wants me to know how easy it is. See, honey, when you obey the Lord, you do all you know to do. What looks hard and impossible will become so easy. Why? Because you can't bring it down if you used a sledgehammer. But when you've got God in you, all you need's a little feather. And you just obey him, and then he gets in the feather, and he does what is impossible for man to do. As easy as a feather, and every wall comes crashing down. That's what he said to me, and that's what he's saying to you. You obey God, and in your obedience, he's going to get in the feather. In your act of obedience, God is going to bring this wall down. Father, help my friend today. I'm just going to hold this weapon for their sake today, Lord. I am holding this weapon for them today, Lord, that this wall that they faced this week is coming down. You're going to show them any part that they need to do, Lord, that they need to go to somebody, they'll go. If they need to do something, they'll do it. If they need to give something, they'll give it. Lord, they'll sow it. They'll do, Lord, so desperate, my friend is desperate enough that she's saying, or he is saying, I don't care what it takes. This wall has to come down. Lord, move on their behalf today. And God, we're asking you to get in the feather and bring down the wall of addiction. Bring down the wall of deception. Bring down the wall of rebellion. Bring down the wall of fear. Bring down the wall of infirmity. Bring down this wall in Jesus' name. And Lord, we are trusting you today. Our eyes are on the faithful one. Our eyes are on the one that can do anything. Our eyes are on the one that loves us. And we give you the glory and all the praise in Jesus' mighty name. My sweet friend, will you comment and let me know what God is saying to you today? Come on. You might need to go buy, get you a feather to pray with. Some of my friends already have them, I know, because you've been at our conferences. Get you a feather and start praying, walking with your feather in hand and decreeing this wall's coming down. This wall's coming down. You can do that after you have obeyed. I love you, honey. And I am so believing with you for your miracle. I am believing with you this will be a week of miracles. And that when this crooked road gets straight, things are about to accelerate in your life. Get ready. I'll talk to you again next week, honey. Share this message with a friend that it would maybe encourage them. Will you do that? Comment and share. I love you. And I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.